An ongoing problem that we are trying to tackle in England is racism. One of the hotspots for the abuse is in our schools, where 95% of British black people have witnessed racist language. Being mixed race myself, I have first-hand experience of racism in secondary education. I've been segregated from my friends and told to sit alone by a teacher who'd never taught me before and was told, "You'll mess around." A teacher did not believe me when I stated I could play the piano, and I was told that I have chocolate on my face by a peer. Over the past 5 years, Freedom of Information studies have uncovered over 60,000 racist incidents in schools over the past 5 years. I've been speaking to some of the people who are in this number about their experiences.
When I recently moved from Italy to the UK, obviously I couldn't really speak English, and it was hard for me to make friends, and for some reason there was this girl that would always pick on me. I never really understood why.
I was just walking down the corridor, this guy, which is like completely bald.
For some reason she just called me the N-word, and I couldn't really defend myself or anything, so I just kind of looked at her and kind of felt sad, but didn't really do anything.
And he was just staring straight into my eyes. He just basically called me a packy, basically directly in my face. I kind of went teary, like upset, and just basically slammed the door in his face. I just basically went to the headmaster, discussed it with him, and yeah, I had a detention.
I think they would have gave her a warning, but I don't think they would have done anything else, because in the school that I went to, they wouldn't really help much when you told them that you were getting bullied or anything like that.
So, how do we combat this issue? It is a problem that people are scared to talk about, and that mindset must change. I have contacted 3 schools inviting them to contribute to this documentary, but I have had no response demonstrating that perhaps they will continue to shy away from the problem. Some schools have a great environment established already. I spoke to a friend who said that her school
We had Caribbean food in the canteen and for people to try, doing more assemblies, things up in the corridors, little things like that did make a big difference.
Whereas another school told one of my peers to stop playing the race card and completely disregarded them being called a gollywog. The Equality Act of 2010 states that it is the law that schools must do 3 things. However, in 2012, they advised schools that they had no legal obligation to report racist incidents to authorities, making them less accountable to their duties. It is evident from my research that a number of schools do not comply with the law under the Equality Act. The following interviews explore what can be done to continue the fight against racism in our secondary schools.
Legislation on its own doesn't bring about the kind of changes we'd like to see. It is a hearts and minds thing, and it still amazes me that schools don't fully understand what's required of them in terms of the Equality Act and the duty. I don't think there's the depth of understanding around how even one incident can impact, and what an effective response is. Secondary schools wouldn't be facing the same kind of issues if actually we got it right at the younger end.
I agree, and that's very much where I'm kind of coming from. I'm really passionate that we need to be talking about this with children from a very, very young age. When there was an incident, when a year 1 says it's not nice that they're not being nice to somebody because they've got more melanin than me, it's kind of like that, whoa, actually that child is really getting that. But just listening to what staff are afraid of, listening to their concerns, listening to how they just don't know how to speak to children has been a revelation to me.
Teacher training, there's very little around this. So, when we're expecting people to take on something that they're not equipped to do, and it needs to absolutely have, a national agenda where, as far as I'm concerned, this is put front and centre. Otherwise, we'll constantly be reacting.
And unless we have those conversations, nothing is ever going to change.
In the way things like health and safety and safeguarding have become absolutely central to, you know, the role of anybody who works in education, that actually equality will have the same importance, and keep this on the table so that it isn't just, you know, oh, George Floyd was murdered, we'll talk about it for a few months and forget about it, but it's absolutely central to our work.
Actually, like, teach them, go through with them, and like see, okay, why is this child acting like this with other students, his own peers, his own equals? Is it because of his parents? Is it the way he was brought up? You know, those are the questions we should be asking.
It's just about people learning to be nice to everyone and not, you know, pick on people just because they're different.
Black children will continue to be failed by our education system so long as we don't address that.